In a world where aura defines destiny, Volke struggles to summon his own. A brutal duel between Zelfree and Lynus erupts, masks fall and secrets ignite. Kissed by Lantern Light and Legacy, Evianna challenges Volke in a seductive strip duel while Lynus urges him to rise as a leader. As dreams of drowning ships haunt them, the Scylla Waters beckon. A lair cloaked in riddles and the looming promise of plague, William finds clarity through pain. Zor skirts death once more and magic begins to bend. Then Yevin appears, the plague rises, and the Armageddon aura awakens. Legacy demands sacrifice. What will Volke become?
Welcome back to the Frith Guild podcast. I'm your host, Eric.
And I'm co-host Scott.
And today we're going to go over chapters 31 through 35 of Grandmaster Arcanist. We are slowly chipping our way through the series. Before we get into today's episode, just want to thank everybody for listening, like, share, subscribe, all that fun, good stuff for us. Thank you so much for everything you have done already. Also want to mention the Frith Chronicles Wiki link is in the description down below, along with the Capital Station Discord server if you want to go over there to join in on some conversation. And with this being after the DragonCon nomination voting process, we want to thank everybody that has voted for Shammy. I know Shammy is absolutely over the moon regardless, but let's hope that we did enough to get her to not only to DragonCon, but to win DragonCon. And with that, we'll get into chapter 31 today.
We leave off with Volke practicing his aura. We know this is the key to curing the plague when it comes down to it, but still no luck there. Still struggling to figure it out. It's something he's struggled with pretty much since the Eclipse aura, so no good luck charms there. We come back and see Zelfree and Lynus dueling it out, and we realize Lynus, obviously several centuries old, a swashbuckler, probably a pretty skilled swords person, and Zelfree is just on completely another level. Just not even breaking a sweat, just kind of doing whatever. Lynus ends up catching him off guard by throwing a lantern at him, and then just kind of like sucking face for a little bit.
Evianna and Volke are just watching like, okay, divert our eyes, let them have their moment.
That escalated quickly. We have this conversation with Adelgis talking about how he wants to build a legacy. And I really like this because I feel like this is Adelgis taking like Theson's build a legacy, but like on the good side of things, and not like we're going to drop everything for whatever fits me best, but like I want to truly benefit everyone that I possibly can in any way possible. There's also an amazing moment where Traces morphed into a rope and it's just a rope laying there, and all I can think is, can she turn into a blender?
If they had blenders, I'm sure she could.
I feel like that's an option. I want to see Traces as a blender, so that's the best option. Little crossover series. They are talking about the auras, and Lynus talks about how he thinks he can fix Zelfree's aura, where instead of pushing magic out, he essentially needs to pull magic in because he is taking magic from other creatures. And we do know that Lynus is very surprisingly extremely knowledgeable about magic, so there is a good chance that the theory behind this is valid. He's also able to help Volke out, so he's pretty much just putting the team on his back at this point. He's like, if you want Nora, like, I'll teach you how to do it.
I will say, though, that Lynus, I mean, again, you said he's been around for centuries. He was also a Mystic Seeker before he became an Arcanist, so he's already gotten a lot of education on different creatures, different magics, all that stuff. Shoot, he learned his magics with Zor literally the first day.
Yeah. He just came out and he's like, it took you guys time to figure this out? Like, this is day one. Y'all slow. But yeah, so thankfully they have him to teach everyone how to do it because he's the only one that really has any experience doing it. Him and Devlin, when it comes down to it. Volke is also trying to help Evianna. She wants to duel Volke. She is constantly trying to prove herself as a Nightmare Arcanist, especially. So we actually are going to get to see them battle it out for once.
And that's where chapter 32, Aura Practice, picks up at. I think that Evianna went into this Aura Practice as a with other intentions to begin with.
Yeah, the aura practice. That's what we're calling it these days.
Air quotes. So they basically agree that they won't hold back. They're going to use real weapons. They're going to use, obviously Volke can't use retribution. That's just too much. Evianna gets 2 steel blades. They start dueling. I like that they basically agree that like the winner is whoever disarms the other. And Zor is sitting on the deck of the ship, just watching what's going on. And again, I imagine he can hear probably pretty well, hearing the conversation they're having about what's going to happen with the winner.
Only imagine what those heads are talking about.
Like they've got to be able to like communicate telepathically or something. But like, oh gosh, again.
First we had Zelfree doing it, now we have Evianna and Volke doing it.
So they get into their duel, and they're essentially playing strip duel.
Impressive.
It is. Like, kudos to them for being able to not slice the crap out of each other, but they're essentially playing strip duel. Like, she cuts off his shirt, he cuts off her shirt, like, she's got wrappings keeping herself in place. They're kind of trading blows, and Evianna ends up making her aura during this, and she does it right.
She needs to teach Volke.
Apparently, she needs to teach Volke how to do it. And during the eclipse aura, Volke can't see, obviously, so I'm at this point, I'm like, the way things are going, I can see this going a completely different direction, and it didn't. I mean, obviously, Shammy, none of her books have gone in that direction, so
keep that rating.
It doesn't surprise. However, Volke ends up catching Evianna though, because he can still feel her moving around on the ship, and they basically end up falling down. Evianna loses track of her aura, but again, this is one of those very impressive moments where she was in the middle of a duel and was able to evoke her aura and kind of do it seamlessly without having to force it. Lynus comes out the next day, says that they need to start preparing to work on their aura, and Volke's kind of like, well, how do we do that? And Lynus is like, I don't have all the answers.
Yes, you do.
Another thing that Lynus points out to Volke is that he is the leader. Volke cannot be focused on the, as I think it said before, the 1 meter grid. He needs to be focused on the 10,000 meter grid, you know, the big picture versus the little picture. So, because he's the leader. And Volke also has to carry himself around and not falter himself to make sure that everybody else behind him is basically going to keep following and not falter themselves.
We come up on chapter 33, the lair of the Scylla Waters. So Volke is dreaming of dragging ships underwater. He realizes these are actually the memories of either the Equinox or the Scylla Waters from the first turning of age. And very cool, the Scylla Waters is invisible underwater, so comes halfway up out of the water and you can see the top half, but completely invisible underneath. At that time, the Equinox is still learning to... Volke is slowly learning to kind of create an aura, and we do get another conversation with William, and William kind of, despite his prestige in the Navy and everything else, he's still really struggling with not being good enough. He's kind of been rejected by Eldrin at a few different cases, and at some point you start to wonder, like, is it really in my path?
I mean, but look at what he's done with Vulcanilia.
Impressive. It just probably tougher than being a god Arcanist when it comes down to it. Taking on 2 orphans by yourself.
and teaching them. Granted, Volke and Ilya had their own morals for the most part to begin with, but making sure that they're going down the proper path.
They do finally arrive at the lair, and Volke is starting to worry about the plague creatures again. We know that now there's kind of an advancement with the plague, so we're not as safe from it as we used to be. But if that's not foreshadowing, I don't know what is.
To be fair, they've been attacked at every single lair, except for the Fenris Wolf. I think technically you could, but that was Odeon. Like, he kind of did.
They were attacked by the plague, essentially.
Yeah. Like, they were already infected by the time they got to the Fenris Wolf lair, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
The plague was there.
Motto. With that, we get into chapter 34, Troubled Waters. We do find the location of the next lair. It is the Quitus Strait that leads to the Blue Rose Sea. And rando facto, I looked up the name Quitus, Q-U-I-E-T-U-S, and I'm sorry, word nerding. Basically, it means death or something that causes death.
Very fitting.
And this is a very fitting name for this because this is a very narrow strait. It's a very difficult one to get through. We know that their airship wouldn't be able to fit through it without wrecking, essentially.
And Scylla Waters in mythology, Scylla is associated with death, so a lot of people die in the myth.
Like, kudos to you, Shammy. Kudos.
Several levels of play there.
Like, it's almost like Disney, you know, whenever you look at the Disney movies, they have these, like, historically accurate things referenced during those movies. Like, this is exactly what we're looking at. Kudos. We do see a lot of ethereal whelks at the bottom of the strait, and that's not to be surprised because a lot of people were trying to go through the strait, and as we just mentioned about the meaning of the name of the strait and Scylla Waters, they were discussing whether they wanted to gather up all the ethereal whelks and try to see if they want to go back and bond with people, but Adele just did mention, let's leave them there. They prefer to stay there until somebody completes their trial of worth and then bond. They do end up landing, and they land on top of the straits. Volke starts making a path down to the bottom. Zor is very adamant about coming with them because he's been on the ship for a very long time, and I can understand that. And somebody makes a comment about making sure he does not get stuck again, because that's kind of how he died the first time.
Not to bring up bad memories, but this is how you died.
Right. Like, just remember, keep it in the back of your mind, okay? They do end up getting to the very bottom of the strait. They found the Scylla Waters lair. We have William going in, and fingers crossed, William. Third time is the charm. Third god Arcanist, or third god creature is the charm here. And they go into the room. First thing they run across is a freaking riddle.
Every time.
Lynus is like, fuck, they did that with the Soul Forge too. I hate riddles. So, like, come on. I like the brains here. I do. So I'm going to say out the riddle here. There's a somber day that always draws near. A promise no one can escape. What do you most fear? Some say death, but they be wrong. What's the price for love's great song? I gotta admit, when I was reading this riddle, it stopped at what do you most fear? And I'm like, it's death. Yeah, in the books. Turned the page, and then it was like, some say death, but they'd be wrong. I'm like, dang it. So, if you know the answer, go ahead and throw it down at the bottom before you continue listening. I'll give you like 5 seconds so you can pause the video or pause your podcast so you can throw it down there, all right? All right, you got your answer down below. William actually comes away with the W, and he gives the correct answer, which is loss. So anybody that gets lost, good job, awesome job. Volke starts to hear something causing a ruckus outside of the lair, and here we are with our foreshadowing from earlier about plague ridden or second ascension, somebody coming. Yeah, side boss. We haven't ran into the second ascension or plague creatures yet, so why not? Why not now at the lair?
Chapter 35 is magic manipulation. Another ship shows up, and here we have our god plague ridden creatures. Advanced plague creatures come up, and we also see that Yevin is there. So Yevin is, again, Adelgis's brother, and he is bonded to the leech. So he is trying to manipulate magic with his evocation, which is pretty cool. Volke is trying to create an aura. He knows kind of the only way out of all these plague creatures is probably through an aura. He starts to heal the plague-ridden creatures, but the aura switches. He goes from Salvation to Armageddon, and out from the abyss, Yevin summons Luther.
And the chapter ends there.
I know.
Ugh.
Talk about a cliffhanger.
Right. Like, throwing out Luther. I will say, I kind of enjoyed the interaction between Yevin and Volke when Yevin forces Volke to change his Salvation Order to the Armageddon Order. Yevin is kind of surprised. He's like, oh shit, that's what that does? Like...
He really doesn't know. He's messing around and he's finding out.
The Griffin literally just explodes. Like, Pig Mist. He's just kind of there like, oh, that's what happens. Okay. But yes, we will have to wait for next week in chapter 36 to start off with what is going on with Luther. Guess there's really not any new creatures we've gone over yet.
No, a lot of old ones coming back up. We've got the reemergence of the Whelks. We've got the Abyssal Leech making another appearance. Griffins making another appearance. The Bear making another appearance. So a lot of callbacks in this chapter back to early books.
And if everybody remembers, the ethereal Whelks are fable-born, and they only die, or they occur when children die?
Drown.
Children drown, yes. Drown. It was more morbid than that. I knew that.
And they have to be like trying to save them, like it's
full of
very
hope
sad.
Or something like that to,
it's
to
sad.
survive.
And there's a lot of Whelks down there.
Yeah. And again, we completely understand them wanting to go and rescue the Whelks and allow them to bond with somebody, so at least they're not just stuck there, but we'll leave them, I guess. And with that, we will end today's episode with chapters 31 through 35. Catch us next week as we go through chapters 36 through 40. And again, we're going to see more Luther. We'll see what was going on with him, where he's been at, what he's been up to, if he's been, just chilling.
Chilling like a villain.
I totally did not intentionally do that.
It was a great setup, though.
All right. Well, with that, guys, we will catch you next week. Hopefully, we're going to be hearing some news about DragonCon, or at least in the next month or so, we'll be hearing who the winner of DragonCon was. So, again, fingers crossed for Shammy. And thank you, and hope you guys have a good day.